It's a new year, and with every new year comes the refresh after holiday break, the review of process and personnel alike, and the renewed sense of determination to make each year of Star Citizen's development even better than the last. And in 2024, that includes the return of so many Squadron 42 developers to our persistent universe fold, all of which are working to add their features and advancements to the already stellar work of the SC devs we all know and love. And so to get this multi-month marathon started, let's throw it now to Chris, Alexis, Gennady, Inez, and Kian of the eponymously named Team Kian to show us a bit of what they're working on for Alpha 323. Of the eponymously named Team Kian
so we showed a lot of interesting things
what they're working on.
And a lot of which is from Kian's team. We're going to be bringing a lot of that to you guys soon this year. And we're going to be talking about the designs of those features and also how we went about making them. You're going to be doing a lot of these for the next 4 months, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God it actually works.
The old EVA system had its purpose, but it had a lot of problems.
So the old EVA was not quite controllable.
The entry and exit into EVA not being very smooth, a lot of face planting. Changing orientation was a problem. You never really knew which kind of way your body was in. The upright pose was a little bit awkward for traversing spaces as well. You couldn't really fit into narrow spaces, and it was a bit restrictive for transitioning around space stations and things like that, especially interior spaces.
In addition to that, the sort of volume you take in order to rotate and look around is huge. It's basically rotating your body every time you just look to the right, look up, etc. That doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look great, and it doesn't feel wonderful if you're in a confined space because, again, you're clipping against everything.
Just don't really think it fit with what we want to do in our game.
It's not a bad system. It got us to where we are today. But we want to make improvements, and there are other features and systems that we need to tie into EVA, which brings us to what's coming this year. So there's multiple aspects of the new EVA system that makes it a lot more versatile. The first is that when you start looking around, it's your camera and your head that's moving. Your body, most of the time, doesn't. So if I'm heading in a certain direction and I want to see what's behind me, I can just look behind me, but I see my body. I get that instant frame of reference as to where I am.
Can I just say, chat, this system looks so much more beautiful in motion. Hopefully it works so much better than the previous system we had in game. I mean it. And I do mean that.
Where my body is, and it just grounds the experience.
So with the new system, we put the player into a more prone pose, kind of a superhero pose. Makes them a much smaller silhouette when traversing around areas.
Can you show us how the EVA works? Show us how the EVA works.
Silhouette.
It just grounds the experience.
So with the new system, we put the player into a more prone.
Do we have that color of the armor? This is that really heavy duty armor. I don't think we have this color of armor in game yet. We have a terracotta color and kind of a brownish color and a whitish color. I've never seen a bright yellow version of the Morzov armor before. Has anyone seen this bright, like burnt mustard yellow color? Unless it's the terracotta, I don't think this is old armor. Or maybe it's a new variant, who knows?
Prone pose, kind of a superhero pose. Makes them a much smaller silhouette when traversing around areas.
Can you show us how the EVA works? Show us how the EVA works.
So now EVA works like this. You move forward and you just fly.
How about when you turn, when you rotate?
And when you rotate, you're like...
The footprint of the character doesn't start to change. So if I want to look around in this tight-knit space, I'm not suddenly spinning around and knocking all the things off the shelves. I'm just looking around, which It means that the metrics we can support for that feature suddenly become much more versatile. You can get on an event rather than not being able to fit into a room. It's also a lot prettier. To watch someone who's got a weapon or just looking around, rotating around as they're doing so. From the outside, it looks better. From the player experience, it just really helps out. You knowing where you are and what you're doing.
We've smoothed out transitions entering and exiting EVA. So no more face planting unless you really, really try.
In new EVA, you can just press forward and you fly. If you release the button, you keep flying while you still can rotate and look around.
Yeah, we've allowed it so you can turn on the spot without altering your silhouette, which is quite nice for interior traversal again. Feels a lot more natural, a lot more responsive to the player.
Yeah, we're going like this. Great.
The features we're going to be bringing out at some point later, soon. We've got zero-G traversal, and that's you attaching to a surface. In the previous system, again, because the character was upright the entire time, it just wouldn't have gelled well with that feature. You're effectively in prone, but attached to a surface, and you're moving along that surface or gliding along it if you sprint.
I'm wondering if there's some sort of magnetic things in the gloves, because ship hulls typically are made with some sort of metals, or maybe on ships that aren't like Xi'an design and such, you have like little grippy pads or something on the fingertip or digit pads of your suit, probably palm as well. There's no way that that's just normal movement. Just saying. It doesn't look right. I mean, he's clearly holding on to it somehow.
That just transitions really nicely from the pose we have for zero-G traversal to the EVA pose. It's almost exactly the same. It's also very similar to prone. So, for example, if you were in an event and all of a sudden the gravity went out, you could crawl along it in zero-G traversal or move around it in EVA without changing what your body's doing, which just means that it's a far more seamless experience. There's much less chance of anything going wrong as a result of that as well.
We've also introduced the EVA fuel and momentum. So once you start traveling forwards in one direction, you'll keep going in that direction until you press another input or the space brake to stop. This becomes especially important when we introduce EVA fuel. So you'll have a finite amount of fuel, and just that little boost could be enough just to get you back to the safety of a space station or your ship. It sets us up nicely for zero-G push-pull, which comes further down the line.
So in terms of what that means for user player and what you're going to be doing with this feature, it allows us to use EVA to get you guys going from your ship to another ship, from your ship to an abandoned space station. You can fly inside ships and space stations without gravity now, without fear of bashing your head and your legs all over the place. It really makes it a much more smooth and easy to use system. And honestly, at the end of the day, it's just with this, I feel like I'm a superhero while I'm going around in space. So yeah, the new EVA feature, as you guys see it today, it's hopefully going to look even better once it gets into your hands. And yeah, we're really excited to see what you guys think of it.
All right, let's talk about pipe pits.
Well, it was better when it was piss pit.
It used to be piss pit.
Yeah, player interaction
Pipe
system.
pit?
Yeah.
So let's talk about the new pipe piss.
Gotta stop saying.
I was too late to change it. I like to say PIS because, yep, sounds better.
I try to avoid HR complaints.
So the burning question is, what is PyPIS? Well, it's everything you interact with around you and how you go about doing that.
It's not always easy to select the interaction that you're looking for.
You have to drag your cursor then to make your selection. And it's not really very fast or intuitive.
And in general, it got in the way of you doing what you wanted. It added an extra layer of menuing that wasn't necessary.
But there's some things that we wanted to solve, and that's what the new system does.
So with the new personal interaction experience, we have multiple ways of improving how you interact with the items around you.
So we've released little parts of the new system in the past with the pit wheel and the quick select wheels and the control hints. This is by far the biggest iteration on it and will totally change how you interact with things in the world. We've introduced the new interaction prompt, which will show you which item you will interact with by just tapping F.
Like a bunch of other people have noticed, look up here, this is the mini map. You have EVA fuel down here, lower left. A bunch of other things that are hidden behind these two things. This is definitely the new interaction system stuff, but it's also got the new HUD too. So, yeah. There's some interesting things coming very, very soon to Star Citizen.
And will I also show you the type of interaction that will be performed.
So the new system, the players don't have to go into interaction mode to interact with the objects.
We've updated that to have an on-screen icon. It gives you the input that you need to press, and it gives you an idea of what you're actually going to do when you press it. So that ambiguity of, am I in range? Is it the item I'm going to interact with? It's gone. You've got an immediate bit of feedback that tells you what you're going to interact with, what you need to press to interact with it, and what you'll do when you interact with it.
So if you're looking at a plushie on the desk, it'll show an F above it with grab, and you can just pick that item up with that. We've also introduced the personal interaction wheel, which instead of the list view, will now give us a nice radio menu that lets you select exactly what you want to do in a much more intuitive manner.
And with the wheel, it's much more seamless, and it feels more like there's no barrier between you and the interactions.
And that's locked the screen, so you can't miss. You're already selecting something, and it's 99% of the time what you want to interact with. Don't sneeze while you're pressing the button. It's much more intuitive. It's much easier to use. And that option, that problem I mentioned, where if you're trying to interact with what's in your hand, that's gone. Now the new system just opens the wheel, and you select what you want to do with what's in your hand. It just works.
So this new interaction wheel plays really nicely with default item actions, which has been in development for a while, but it needed the whole system to come together as one before we released it.
If, for example, you're out mining gems after blowing up rocks with your multi-tool, you might want to pick a gem up and look at it. Or you might want to just store it directly into your backpack. You now have the option to customize and say, when I look down at that piece of gem, show me the prompt. It's always going to show store. Or it's always going to show carry or inspect. It's up to you. And you can change that on the fly, and it'll remember it. And it just allows you to customize your own experience.
Now the player doesn't have to go to interaction mode to make a selection. It can just simply tap to trigger the behavior.
The new system is entirely data-driven, so from our perspective, it makes it really easy to customize from a designer's point of view. And again, because we've set up that data, you can then customize it yourself.
It allows you to customize the primary and the secondary interaction. So you can change what just tapping F while looking at something does.
If the player changes the default item on that item, the selection will be saved across all the items that match that state and the item category.
It picks up on what you want to do with different item types. So if you want to cuddle a plushie, you can set that to be your default inspect. If you want to be picking up golden lemons and storing them directly whilst you're harvesting, you can set store to be your default, and then that's the way it'll stay. If you want to equip ammo as soon as you come across it to your suit, you can set that as your default item action. So it's something that, with a little bit of interaction from yourself, means that you can customize and tweak your own play experience and really rough out the edges in terms of your minute-to-minute gameplay and how you interact with things.
We've also introduced a new scoring system for interaction points that allows us to better select which interaction point is of interest to the player. This is based on distance from the player, angle to the cursor or center screen, and whether it's on screen or not. It also allows us to interact with things that aren't quite on screen, so if there's a trolley handle just below you, you'll be able to tap F and you should just grab it. This makes it a lot more intuitive. Something on the ground can have a different default action to something in your hand. This is all set up and customized through the interaction wheel.
And then obviously the player now doesn't have to go into interaction mode, drag the cursor, make the selection. You can just simply tap or double tap to trigger the secondary action, and that should be a much easier experience for the player.
We'll forget about what was there before. It'll feel like it has always belonged. You won't be able to live without it, really.
That's just some of the things our team has been working on over the last few months and bringing to SE Alpha 323.
We're looking at bringing you lots more stuff from our work on Squadron 42 into Star Citizen. We're really excited to get that into your hands to improve your overall player experience, the way you travel through the verse. Yeah, when you get your hands on it, please let us know what you think. We're really excited to find out.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that EVA looks sick. Sure, usually I'm a bit more eloquent than that, but damn, I'm allowed to mark out sometimes. That the way we interact with the persistent universe around us is getting a whole lot more intuitive and customizable. And that this new EVA, new default item actions, and new personal interaction system are just the beginning of what this spring's Alpha 323 has to offer. Yes, Virginia, it's gonna be a big one. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Be sure you check out tomorrow's Star Citizen Live, where we dive into even more Alpha 323 goodness, and we'll see you all here next week.
Okay, before I begin Star Citizen Live, which I've heard is a really, really good one, I'm excited about the prospect of the EVA changes. Oh my God, they date back to the old part of the game, the original part of the game. So it's time for some changes since 3.0. Yeah, it's time. But I do have some questions, like, how is that spaceman doing this thing on the ship? Does he have magnetic fingers on the gloves and stuff, like the mag boots we were promised so long ago? Or does he have sticky pads or some sort of Velcro or whatever on the pads of his hands? That's what I'm curious about. I mean, because you can't really grip things in 0G without handholds and holes and, you know, something, some sort of adhesive or tractor beam, something, you know. Otherwise, you just do this and bounce off and keep going. Just saying. Anyways, let's start SCL. I've heard there's a lot of stuff in here that I'm really excited about, so let's go.
Just threatening Pete by, I was going to start with a good morning, Star Citizen. He was just waving me off. Hi, everybody. We're back. Welcome to Star Citizen Live. I'm your host, Jared. We just talked about that. We just talked about that. And if you've never seen Star Citizen Live before, it's where we take about an hour out of the end of our week and we chat with a few of the developers who make Star Citizen and Squadron 42 possible. On this week's show, we are changing things up a bit. Generally speaking, towards the release of any given patch, we have what we call this all about alpha, whatever it is, show. We usually bring our Star Citizen live game director, Todd Pappy, on the show, and he answers your questions about all the things you've seen in ISC throughout the season building up to this, the things that you're you're experiencing through Evocati and through PTU, and it's all a big fun thing where you guys get to ask questions and we pose right to the people, put them on the hot seat. We're not doing any of that today. We are changing the formula. We are at the beginning of this journey to Alpha 323, Alpha 323, Alpha 323. We've all come back from our holidays. We've done the typical regroup and engineering planning for the next patch. We also do our yearly performance reviews. How'd you do?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
We'll find out.
I haven't found out mine either. But, let's hope they're not watching this show. Do the performance reviews, and then we begin this journey towards our next big patch. Because this patch is built very differently than previous patches before, it's going to showcase a whole lot of what you saw, showcased at CitizenCon. We thought we'd do it differently. We're gonna be Babe Ruth. We're going to step up the plate and we're going to call our shot this quarter. And we're going to talk about what's coming in Alpha 323 at the beginning of this road. And to do that, joining me today first is a friend of the show, somebody we haven't had on either of our shows in quite some time. You've got a new title since the last time we had it, so I'm going to have you do it because I didn't think to ask you what your title was before we started. Johnny Jasivius. Johnny, how you doing, man?
Hello. Do you want to guess what my title is?
It's Assistant Design Director.
Got it in one.
Did I get it?
Yeah, you did.
Congratulations on the promotion, man.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I need a bit of a water there. So, Assistant Design Director. What does Assistant Design Director do?
A lot of stuff.
So,
essentially, I am cross-project on both Squadron 42 and Star Citizen itself. So I essentially run the design teams that we've got, which includes mission design, economy design, system design, technical design. So all of those teams report to me and we all work together as one big team. We also work with a lot of the other teams, obviously people like Ian Leyland and his art team, a lot of people that we've had on here before. But essentially, I'm working with everyone in the company more or less to try and, hit the vision that we're trying to hit.
You were, folks who've been watching our Star Citizen programming for years now, remember you were part of the FPS systems design team when you went over to Squadron with that big migration, two and a half, 3 years ago?
2 to 3, yeah.
Now, yeah. You went away to Squadron, hunkered down, worked on all these features in quiet solitude, and now we're bringing all these things back, adding to the already existing team and work of the Star Citizen development team to make Alpha 323 and beyond.
Yep.
So we're going to jump right into it. So we're going to talk about the things that are targeted for Alpha 323. Now, I want to, before we go into the rest of the show, I want to talk about what that word targeted means. These are the things that the various programming and engineering teams, the art teams, the design teams, these are the features that they're all working towards and expected to have delivered for Alpha 323. We all know, because we've been doing this for a while, that sometimes a thing slips, it gets to a go, no go, it doesn't quite make the go, so like that. So this is not an exhaustive list of everything that will come. There are also some surprises. There are also some things that we've designated surprises, things we want you to discover on your own when you log into PTU for that first time. So we're not going to cover everything that we're intending to put into 323, but we're going to cover a pretty exhaustive list. And we're going to start with the stuff that we talked about yesterday in Inside Star Citizen. We came back on Inside Star Citizen yesterday. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. New EVA. So new EVA is coming along pretty well. When we first started capturing for ISC, we still had to be in squadron builds for a little bit because it was just getting integrated into the Precision universe.
Yeah.
By the time we went live, it had begun its integration into the Star Citizen universe. How's EVA doing?
Really good. Obviously, there's still work to do. Obviously, a big proponent of that, as you mentioned, it was in Squadron Stream. Obviously, now we're dealing with things like networking, and this is going to be true for a lot of the features that we talk about today, is that obviously there are unique challenges that come with putting things into the persistent universe in Star Citizen. So, yeah, it's looking really good. And obviously, the guys yesterday, if you missed ISC, they did a very, very good job of explaining the systems, but I'll kind of give a quick summary of that. Basically, how we felt previously about the old EVA system is that it wasn't really up to scratch. The player experience and just the feel of the movement wasn't really as responsive and as basically easy to use as we essentially want. So as the game's evolving, we're finding that we're going into these environments where we're making tighter turns, we're going through wreckages, we're trying to do things like that. And if you think about the old EVA system, because you're flying around so upright, you kind of have a silhouette of movement that's kind of like my forearm here. But if you think about it now, because we're going into what we've kind of called the Iron Man pose internally, where you're kind of leaning forward, your arms are down by your side, your silhouette is more like this. So you're facing directly forwards. And what that means is, obviously, if you're going through tighter spaces, it's a lot easier. When you're rotating, you're no longer rotating like this, you're kind of more rotating like this, so you can fit through those gaps easier, and you're not bumping into things quite as often. And then on top of that, if you're winding your way through, you're almost mirroring a bit like a snake-like motion, and obviously you can kind of fit through all those tight gaps and turns and things like that too.
A lot of the comments that we saw on in YouTube and on Spectrum and on Reddit had to do with it seemed like the next logical step might be like little rockets on the boots, little rocket boots to help propel you, little jet packs, maybe even an animation to do the Christopher Reeve Superman thing. Are any of these being considered?
In the future, we want to put more emphasis on basically picking equipment that allows you to EVA better. So that might be in the form of, say, EVA jetpacks, not jetpacks, but EVA backpacks and things like that might come with more EVA fuel, because that's something we want to do down the line. More oxygen and things like that for existing in spaces where there's no atmosphere for you to be able to breathe. And essentially, looking into that preparation phase that we've talked about before, where you're making considerations that, hey, I want to be like a EVA salvager. I'm going to equip myself with the things that are going to be able to get me there. But until we get other features in, like we showed yesterday, we showed the zero-G push-pull. That's not coming in 323. No. And some of these systems we're holding back because we wouldn't really want to implement EVA fuel without having systems like zero-G push-pull, because otherwise you might be sat in the middle of space, run out of fuel, you've got no options.
You also need to build places to refuel.
100%,
stuff
yes.
like that, yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. We tried to be very deliberate in our storytelling. We said, this is coming in Alpha 323, and then further down the line, there's the traversal, there's the zero-G traversal where you're climbing on the hands. There's the fuel. We changed the work in progress graphic to say, this stuff is the 323. This stuff is not the 323.
Yeah.
We changed the music. Some folks, who maybe get their news from other rewatchers or whatever, missed that EVA is 323, but the zero-G traversal, that crawling along the hands, and the fuel stuff is not 323. That is down the line.
Down the line, yeah.
Because of those reasons you just mentioned, we got to build these other systems out to accommodate them in a multiplayer environment.
Yes.
You can kind of gloss. You have other solutions in a single-player game. The mission ends and stuff like this, but yeah. So. And then, of course, networking. Networking is going to be the challenge for all of these.
Yep, 100%.
There isn't just a make multiplayer button and transfer these features over. But the guys are working pretty. The guys are working pretty well. Like I said, I want to shout out the gameplay folks for Inside Star Citizen. They do amazing stuff. There's the alpha game that you play, and then there's the PTU. That's got a certain level of bugginess. There's no reason to lie about it. There's the PTU that has a certain level of bugginess. Then there's Evocati that has so much bugginess we NDA it. And then there's where these guys work. So the effort that they put into getting those EVA shots when they were still working on networking and stuff was a truly Herculean effort. And I want to shout out Will, Dave, and Alex for their work on that right there. We also, let's move on to the personal interaction experience or player interaction system. I'm not going to use the acronym.
Are you sure?
And the default item actions.
Okay.
Where did this come from? Because obviously we were working towards inner thought and all this other stuff. I know we talked a little bit about it at CitizenCon, but where in the development of Squadron 42 did that change? Did we realize we needed this other approach?
Yeah, so obviously we had an interaction system that has evolved a couple of times, right? And it evolves through necessity and where the game's at and where we feel like it needs to go. So we used to just have the super plain interaction system. You remember the old use thing that was in the middle of the screen? And it used to just be, looking back on that now, it was quite inappropriate because you would hit use and hope that it was the correct action that it did. Is it going to pick it up? Is it going to open it? Is it going to close it? What's going to happen? So that obviously wasn't very clear. And as the game evolved and the items and the way you interact with the items got more kind of in depth and you could do 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 different things with the same item, the necessity came to basically have a selection there. So that's basically where we ended up with the system that is currently in Star Citizen at the moment, where we've got the list. Now obviously playing with that for such a long time, we eventually got to a point where we were saying, we could definitely do better here, and it's something that we've wanted to do for quite a while. So that's where the player interaction experience comes in, where we are now condensing this down into one single use action. But unlike the old use action, you get a verb that essentially tells you what it is you're going to do. And that also ties into default item actions. So I could look at all of these items on your desk, right? All of them might be very different from each other. Your laptop might be like the old school use action, which would tell me that I'm probably going to hop down and start typing on the laptop. That folder there might be more like a pickup action or an inspect action if it's something that's like a data pad, if there's an iPad on the table or something like that. And that allows us to basically look at all of these different item types that we've got in data and say, this is what we think the default item action for this thing should be. But again, in ISC, something really cool that we showed off is the ability to customize that as well. So we're not getting rid of all of the big list of actions that we previously had that were quite difficult to navigate through, especially in like situations like combat. Combat is obviously something that we've seen a lot of in Squadron.
Hold on, I'm in the middle of a fight. Let me go through this long list of things here while I'm getting shot.
Yeah, you can envision how that generally goes. And again, through the game evolving comes the necessity to change it, right? So I just want to look at a weapon on the floor and hit go. I just want to pick it up and use it, right? But as I was saying, yeah, we're not getting rid of all of the other actions that you can do with the items. It's just that they are tucked away behind a wheel. For the people who want to customize this experience or use the other interactions on specific items, it's all there, and it's in a slightly cleaner format with the wheel, so you're not accidentally clicking something on a condensed list that we used to have.
Some of the comments we saw again on YouTube and Spectrum and whatnot was that as you looked around, on everything. Is that going to happen every single time a player looks around at everything? Is that a toggleable thing?
So we've spent a lot of time tuning that, so it's picking out the important items, the large items. Basically, we've got a system that essentially finds out where your focus is. So again, we have played with this a lot. If the F moving around on all these different items got annoying, it would annoy us too, because we played the game so much as well. So we're at a point now where we feel like the F selection is very, very clear and easy to use. And the selection itself isn't, we know, like if I was here right now and I had moved my focus to your laptop, but I was too far away to actually use the laptop, it would prioritize the closest thing that is still in the focus. It's actually a very smart system. So yeah, we don't get annoyed by it at all. And for the people who actually like to use it, the interaction system's still there. So you can still mouse over things and highlight them and interact with them. If you really need to do fine control, oh, I'm sifting through this guy's stuff that's on his armor, or I've got loads of clutter on my desk in my hab, I can still very fine, have a fine selection of what I want to interact with too.
And of course, like everything here, this will continue to iterate after 3.23.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think we're telling any tales out of school. 3.23 is not going to be the final version of any of these features. That this game continues to iterate and continues to evolve. You got a balance for the Squadron 42 universe. Putting it into Persistent Universe, we might discover a PU location where it does get a little crazy, and adjustments have to be made. That's part of development.
Yep.
Like this. So that's what we covered yesterday. So now let's go into formally announcing some other things that we're working towards. Distribution centers. Mm-hmm. Distribution centers, which we've shown off. I think we first introduced the idea of them at CitizenCon 2 years ago. We revisited them at the CitizenCon last year. I think we did a Journey to 4.0 special somewhere in the middle. They blurred together. People, I'm sorry. I've done a lot of these shows. Distribution centers are now fully on track to come in Alpha 3.23.
Yep.
What can you tell me about what players can expect?
Okay, so just as a bit of background, the distribution centers are these massive facilities. They truly are really big, that are down on the surface of planets and moons and things like that. And they kind of are what they sound like, right? It's a center of distribution. Like there are lots of landing pads. It should be a big hub of activity basically. And there are a lot of different areas of the distribution center that are different from each other. So you've got the exterior, typically where people will be landing their ship, unloading cargo, things like that. You've got the offices up top, which is generally more of a front for whatever business or corporation has ownership of this place. And then you've kind of got more of the inner workings, which are kind of where you would typically expect to see cargo being ferried. If there's machinery that are producing stuff down there, if they're making something, then that would be where that's all tucked down. So what we're trying to provide for 323 is some variety between the different locations, so slightly different layouts between the different distribution centers, so they all feel a little bit different from each other. Have different factions at each of these places as well, which should give a very different feeling of what you're going to be doing there. So just as an example, and we talked about this recently, is you might have a law-abiding faction there, and typically you would be doing what you would expect to at a law-abiding place, where you would be trading, talking to people, things like that, all above board. If you're a pirate, you can obviously come and attack and cause trouble, but they might have security systems made to deal with you. You might also have a hostile faction that's take over one of these things that a corporation maybe previously had, and they came in and took over, and that would be a very combat-focused area for you to go and play in. And then you might have something that's more of a mix. So you go in, the front is very professional and business-like, but underneath, if you go a little bit deeper, you might find that they're up to no good.
Space wallet.
Yeah, so ultimately for the content we want to provide, the distribution centers have a lot of possibility, and there's no way that we're going to provide all of the content that we want to in one drop. But we definitely want you interacting there, doing cargo missions, and potentially some basic like combat missions and things like that to interact with all of the different areas of the distribution centers we're going to provide. But the future's very exciting for them.
And these are
big and diverse.
And these are humongous. These are the biggest thing we've done short of a landing zone.
Yeah.
They are massive. They are microcosms of the entire Star.
I'm going to stop here for a second. Can I just say I'm excited about these? Because distribution centers are part of the overall economy web that Star Citizen is fixing to roll out. So this is a fundamental change. Also, it means we might be able to bed log at these places if we have enough reputation. So we won't just all be crammed into tiny little landing zones like Lorville, New Babbage, and so on and so forth. Just wanted to make that clear. These distribution centers, think of them more like one smokestack towns. They're bigger than they look. Anyways, continuing.
Star Citizen FPS experience. When I say FPS, I mean things not in a spaceship. There are missions. You'll get missions that will take you to these places. You'll go to these places to take to get missions that take you out. Some missions we'll be talking about these on ISC in just like 2 weeks, so I don't want to spoil everything. But some of the missions are self-contained within the distribution center. They're that big that you can do the entire loop within the distribution center.
Yep.
Hi, Daisy. They really are an exciting new addition, and 323 is not the end of them. Like I said, 323 is not the end of anything like this. They will continue to evolve beyond that. It's one of those things. I don't think we're ready to share that just yet, but there are some exciting plans for distribution centers beyond 323 that boy, when they let me tell you, I'm going to tell you really loud.
Shut up, Jared. We want them sooner rather than later.
All right. From there, let's move on to some ship stuff. What did it say? Wow, the Star Citizen Live set has come such a long way, says Old Boy. Yeah, well, we try. We try. Master modes. Mm-hmm. So we've been talking about master modes again. Master modes almost, actually, we've been talking about master modes for just as long as we've been talking about distribution centers. They first debuted 2 CitizenCons ago. In 323, they are slated to go in. Yep. They're slated to go in, so yeah, so yay for everybody. The vehicle experience team, Rich Challer's team, April and all of them, they're fast working on converting all of Star Citizen's existing spaceships to the master modes, defining the different archetypes, and again, we'll be talking about those in detail in ISC in 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. This is not. It's taken us a while to get to master modes.
Yep.
And not everyone is. I think it's safe to say not everybody is completely on board with the idea. You know, I can read Spectrum, I can read Reddit and whatnot. There seem to be just as many people who are for the idea as against.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this.
I mean, it's a big change, right? And people are always, you know, initially going to be resistant to it. And I think that's very, very natural because you've been playing a game for such a long time and it's such a big change that you're going to have to relearn a lot of the things that you've already learned before. But ultimately, again, this was another thing that has come around from us playing the game, especially in like combat-focused scenarios in Squadron, and going through and going, you know, like, hey, we feel like change needs to be made. So just a very, very, very high level of what master modes are. As essentially you have navigation and 2 SCM modes that you switch between, and they have very defined purposes with how you fly your ship. And what this has allowed us to do is in SCM, which is essentially your combat mode, is we've made it so the combat is able to be a little bit tighter because we've got a bit more control over the ship speeds there. That combat is a lot more personal, a lot tighter, and we felt that it felt for a much more visceral and a lot more personal and experience with whoever you're fighting. And obviously that's translated to player versus player combat as well, which again, we've been testing internally quite a lot. And it's avoiding situations where you're able to essentially exploit the flight system to kind of constantly play chase and not really have a proper, you know, one-on-one combat with someone, and you're constantly running away and not running away. So we felt that it was a positive change as we've been playing the game. So yeah,
I think from my limited experience with it, it gets more exciting the more players that get involved. It's certainly fun 1v1, but when the furball starts, when you know, we're testing some things that where you know more and more players are jumping in and stuff like this, and when I'm seeing the battles with like 15 people involved, 25 people involved, it keeps them all tight and compact, and literally the screen can be filled with ships this way, and it's much more visceral experience.
It's a game changer. We've got such beautiful ships, we've got amazing VFX that, you know, when you're shooting at someone, you typically in the past haven't really been able to see because you're, you know, hundreds of meters, if not kilometers away from people. It seems a real shame to not be able to see some of that stuff. You're basically just interacting with the UI. So this bringing you closer together is just a much better feeling experience in our opinion.
So master modes on track 323.
At the moment, yeah.
Mark it off.
And we want a lot of feedback, so, and we will get it, I'm sure, but yeah.
Along with master modes, some other ship-related stuff, precision targeting. Precision targeting and a big change to gimbals and weapon gimbals. What can you tell us about this?
So precision targeting at its very core is very similar to what you would do in a first-person shooter. You take time to aim and it kind of almost helps you be more accurate. So what you can expect in the ships is a immediate zoom. So I know we've got a system where you can scroll in and zoom, and it's maybe a little bit awkward to try and use. This is a more toggle in, toggle out of zoom. So again, you're going to be closer anyway through master modes coming in. This is more a case of you're closer already, and now you're zooming in on your target. You can see much more of the ship. So if you're in a combat scenario where you're flying around and having to maneuver a lot and you're dealing with multiple targets, you might not necessarily want to use it too much. But if I'm in a situation where you're flying a Cutlass and I'm trying to take one of your engines off, I can toggle into precision targeting mode and go straight for your engines if I wanted to, just take out your engines, get on board and deal with you that way. So it's, again, leans more into that closer feeling experience, also helps you with aiming at a target rather than trying to pixel hunt a little bit with your screen, and obviously makes it more accessible and having to scroll in and out with the mouse wheel. It's just one click to toggle in and out. And then with the gimbal change, the big change there is all ships are basically now going to have gimbals. Hold
on, just look right in that camera. Don't drop it. Look right in that camera right there. And say that again.
All ships are going to have gimbals, or all weapons are going to have gimbals. Weapon slots of ships are going to have gimbals. So that's not entirely true. I'm going to contradict myself already.
Yeah, there are a few
couple of exceptions. You know, you look at the Idris, it's got a massive railgun on it. It's not going to be rotating around everywhere. It's
the nose gun on the Vanguard.
Yeah, so there are a few that are going to be stuck as they are, but what we kind of had thought about for a while that we weren't too keen on is the swap down and swap out for the different weapons, and exchanging the gimbal out for that, basically, because new players come in and it's not immediately understandable what's going on there, and we didn't really feel like it was adding as much value. And just to touch on the turrets as well, turrets are now going to have gimbaled weapons too, which is really, really good, because obviously previously you were limited to the rotation speed of the turret. It gives you a little bit more look ahead and a little bit more of a unified, pleasant experience that you can expect from the ships that you can then expect from the turrets as well.
So I think we glossed over the gimbal change. And again, we have an entire ISC dedicated to this. So we're covering a lot of topics that you're then going to see deep dives of for the next 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks and whatnot. But with the gimbals, the size restriction is also going away with them. So
as in, it's you're no longer trading.
Have to do
down.
one size, yeah.
Exactly.
One down.
Yeah.
So some ships will get bigger weapons for this, and of course there are the exceptions. Basically, I'm not going to give you an exhaustive list of the exceptions, but if you look at a ship and there's clearly a very impossibly fixed weapon on it, think Inferno, think Vanguard with the nose, think Idris with the railgun, those will not be gimbaled. So they're not going through and remaking the ships to do that. So there are a very small amount of exceptions. I think it's like 4 or 5.
Yeah, it will be an exception rather than a common thing.
But you can clearly look at the ship and go, yeah, I don't understand how that could be gimbaled. Congratulations, that's probably one of the ones that aren't being gimbaled. All right, and again, we will cover all of that with Yogi and Rich Towler and their teams in just a few weeks. So stay tuned for more details and examples and all that good stuff. I don't know if I want to go to a big one or a small one. I'm trying to weave the story here because we got a lot more stuff coming. Let's go back to FPS stuff for a little bit.
Okay.
Dynamic crosshair, scopes, reloading, FPS weapon stuff. Go. What you got?
Oh man, how long have we got?
Going back to your old stomping grounds here.
Yeah, I mean, so please stop me if I go too technical or go too deep on this, because obviously this is kind of my jam. So, God, where do we start? So let's start with reloading. So the changes or improvements to reloading, as we've been calling it, have again come through the necessity of change through playing combat in Squadron a lot, very focused combat areas where we're able to really hammer out some of the basic combat mechanics, where we were in situations that were getting frustrating, and we were essentially playing the game. As most people probably know, engaged in the FPS combat, if you reload, we save your ammo pool to your magazine, and that goes back on your suit. And you might then end up in a situation where if you want to put more magazines on your suit is now completely full, and you can't put more on unless you swap them out, and it's a very sticky, tedious process. Yeah, so essentially we're trying to remove steps there, rather than get rid of the realism that you have with basically having magazines that contain the ammunition. We want to keep that, and down the line we may still want to lean into doing the magazine stripping through a proper animated system. What we really wanted to lean in to at the moment is just an ability to be able to condense the amount of ammunition down that you've got. So that's what we call ammo repooling, and that is an interaction either on the weapon or in your inventory that lets you essentially go, this weapon, I would like to condense all of the magazines for that. Your character will play an animation while it's happening. It's quite a basic one. And then it will take a varying amount of time depending on how much ammunition you're shifting. So if I'm doing LMG mags, that will take longer than, say, if I'm doing pistol magazines that might have 10 bullets in or so. So,
and of course, again, we don't want to cover every aspect. We want to save some stuff for Torsten's team when he's on in a few weeks. This is a weird show. This is not a show that we've done before. We're essentially spoiling the entire season of Inside Star Citizen this quarter, if you haven't figured that out. So this is basically everything that you can expect to see on Thursdays for the next 9-10 weeks as we go. Dynamic crosshair.
Okay, dynamic crosshair. So, again, this came through necessity from playing combat so much. It was essentially a situation where you don't always have time to aim. Sometimes you want to just shoot your gun in a desperate situation, and it's really nice to have an indicator there of where it is you're going to shoot. So we came up with the dynamic crosshair. It essentially gives you an idea of what sort of spread you can expect from your weapon, and we essentially simulate spread through a spread cone on our guns, just because we don't want the gun shaking all over the place to kind of generate it. So we do add some spread on there, and essentially the more you fire, obviously it changes, the more unstable it is. The dynamic crosshair basically tells you where you're going to be shooting. Now, what we've done, and this kind of leans into some down the line armor gameplay that we're going to be leaning into, where we want to make the armor sets and things feel different and give them a unique purpose, is this dynamic crosshair is meant as a combat feature that you get on combat helmets. So if I'm, say an engineer or something like that, I don't necessarily need a dynamic crosshair for my gun because I'm not really going out and doing combat. You might get other benefits from wearing engineering gear or medical gear or whatever, but this is something that we're obviously leaning into long term, and this is one of the first features that we're bringing out for combat suits.
And we'll save scopes and recoil and stuff for Torsten and their teams like this. I do want to clear something up. I can see the chat right now, and even if I couldn't see the chat, I'd know what was happening. He said 8 to 9 weeks, and somebody's doing math from February 2nd. Is it February 2nd? Yeah. February 2nd to try to figure out when Alpha 323 is. Don't do that to yourself. I'm just pulling numbers out of my how many episodes that I have planned ahead and stuff like that. That's not any indication of when the patch is going to come out. Don't do that. Just enjoy life. Be in the moment. Enjoy all of this that we're talking about, that we're shooting for Alpha 323, and don't spoil the experience for yourself by putting dates on things and trying to reverse information that doesn't exist. I don't know what voice that was. All right. It's possible I've been doing this too long, JJ.
Maybe, and it's only the start of the year.
All right. You mentioned the combat helmets, and so sorry. Let's talk about the visor and lens stuff. In ISE yesterday, players saw a little bit of the 3D mini map and the corner and some visor stuff. 323.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so basically visor and hood is going to be a big restyle. So I think the big task at the moment is restyling it for the persistent universe. Just a few features essentially. We have like the existing hint system that we've got in game. That's all being tidied away into the new notification system that we've got with high and low priority notifications, where we've got some really nice visuals for those. We've obviously got the newly reworked, I'm going to call it like the combat stack. That's what I quite like calling it. Yeah. No one else calls it that, but basically it shows you where all your ammo is, gives you all your feedback for your weapons, changing items, things like that. It shows you what's in your hands.
Let's make it a thing. Let's all agree to call it the combat stack for JJ, who's doing such a good job here today.
Then on the left-hand side, we've obviously got all the widgets for things like your health, the environment, all that sort of stuff. We've got the compass that's going in too, which is, we've got the compass. It's in the video. You can already see it.
Wait, an actual compass?
Well,
like I can tell what direction I'm going.
Yes.
Like no more. Which direction am I going? I can go. That's north.
Yeah. Well, not north in space, but you got a bearing.
I'll take it.
North on a planet.
I'll take it.
Yeah. You happy? Yeah. Okay. Good. And then obviously one of the biggest ones is the mini map, and the mini map is amazing. It really is, and it links into what we're doing, which we can talk about in a little bit, with the star map on the Mobiglass 2, which is basically the area map. I'll make very clear now, we're not doing all locations.
Yes, I was just about to hit that.
With the mini map, because obviously there is a lot of space and areas to mark up.
Yes, I was going to say, let's talk about that. The mini map does not just exist in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Every single location in the persistent universe has to be marked up in order to feed that information into the mini map. I'll go ahead and say, because I talked to John Crew about this just yesterday, the ship team is working diligently to get as many of the ships as possible marked up for 320.
Same with landing
zones. You can at least explore your ships with the mini maps and stuff, and then maybe a couple locations here and there. And then that will just continue. Patch after patch after patch will just continue to mark up more and more locations until eventually all of the PU reaches parity.
Yep, so it's going to be really easy to find your way around everywhere once it's done. So you can basically just get a view of where you are, where you want to go, set a route, all of that good stuff.
Okay. Should we lay it on them? I mean, we're right there. We're right there with the mini map.
I don't even know where you're going to go with this.
You don't know where we're going to go for the mini map?
No, okay, now you've said that.
Should we lay it up?
Sure.
Say it.
Star map.
Star map.
New star map. Yeah, so big quality of life improvement from where we're at right now. And again, we're changing it because it's the current star map is difficult to use. It's not clear, you don't get enough feedback. Like some things are broken,
He said some things are broken.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But yeah, we've spent a lot of time on styling it, making it very clear, making it very easy to use, done a lot of testing ourselves of just playing around with it. We've added some new features to it too. So essentially a estimated travel time if you set a route somewhere, search functionality, which is all fairly basic to start with. We'll obviously come back more on that later, but or down the line. But essentially, if I want to go to Hurston, I type in Hurston, it takes me to Hurston on the map. And I click set route, and then I go. Like it's I
don't understand. Why can it be so easy? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, and we're obviously very, very excited about it.
I have so many traumas, though, JJ. What am I going to do with all my traumas?
You have to find new ones. That's what you have to do. Create more.
That's true.
Yeah.
And then from the star map, let's just go way to the other end of technical stuff. With a little thing we showcased by Sean Tracy and Andre at CitizenCon, the character customizer.
Yeah, the character customizer is super cool. So along with all the new scans of characters and all the new basically look people that you're going to be able to customize from, you've got basically two ways of customizing a character now, which is very exciting. You've essentially got something that allows you to do a DNA blend, which is that's what we call it anyway. So you're basically taking your head on one side, which is what you currently have. There's basically a bank of heads on the other side that you can flick through and look, I like these particular features. And what you can do is you can select one, go, I like this person's nose. I can then go on my slider 0 to 100% and go, I want to go all the way to having their nose, and I want to go all the way to having mine, or I want to go somewhere in between. So it blends the two shapes together. And you can do that for the entire head. You can do it for ears, nose, eyes, brow, lips, all that sort of stuff. The second way of doing it, which is a very cool one, is, I don't know what we ended up calling it, but essentially you are grabbing anchor points on the face. So let's say I grabbed my brow and I was looking at it from the side and I drag my mouse to the right-hand side and try to pull it out. What it does is it looks through our bank of heads that we've got in the back end and essentially tries to translate what is there to what you're doing with the mouse. So if I did it on my nose and pulled it that way, it would try and find a nose with a shape that's like that. So you're basically grabbing points on the face, moving the mouse around, and essentially seeing it go through all of these different iterations so it feels like you're sculpting, but you're not, if that makes sense. So you come out the other side being able to make some really, really unique characters, and we've had a lot of fun in tests trying to make, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Dave Bautista.
You always try.
It was a fun testing session. You can get something that looks, pretty damn close. But on top of that, we've got new hair, facial hair, makeup. The hair is very, very cool, by the way. You've now got hair dye. So if I really wanted to, let's say, change my hair to white, I can change it to white, have it fade into blue. I can select how quickly it fades in, if it's like a sharp transition, if it's near the root or near the tip. There's a ton of really cool customization there. And obviously the UI has had a big overhaul as part of that too.
Not an Alien says, I hope we can make freaks.
Depends, yeah.
Just leave it.
Yeah, okay.
Just let him sit with that. Let everybody sit knowing that that's what he said.
You can make
not an alien.
Unique characters.
Cargo. Cargo's getting its next big kind of push there. What can you tell us that's involved there? Freight elevators, obviously.
Yeah, we've got the freight elevators. We've got the basically the instance hangars. So you're going to be able to go to your own hangar. You're going to have your freight elevator. You're going to be able to spawn your ship. The core part of the experience is that you essentially go to your freight elevator. We'll have a kiosk with a nice new UI on it. You can then interact with that to essentially go, what's in my storage? So the regular inventory area storage is going away. So it's much more physically based in your hangar storage. It's very much more personal. You then go, I want all of this stuff, click, 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 click. You fill up or see the freight elevator filling up on the UI. You then click a button and lo and behold, all your stuff's just come out the ground. And then it's up to you to load it into your ship. So as part of that, we'll also have things like hover trolleys. We've obviously got the tractor beam that's usable in there too, so you can then wheel it over, start loading up your ship, and it's a much more representative feel of what the cargo experience is going to be like long term.
It's a lot in 323.
Oh yeah.
We're not done. We're not done. There's a. I want to start wrapping this because I want to get to our next talking point here. We're not sharing everything that's in 323. There are still some things we want to keep secret. There's still some, obviously I also don't want to spoil an entire season of ISC. We've already covered so much and stuff like this. But you can also expect things like the Blockade Runner mission. If you remember, we covered that on ISC sometime last year, maybe in Q3 sometime. The Blockade Runner experience that we talked about then, that's targeted for 323. A big update to Xenothreat that we're not going to share just yet. We're going to let players, that's one of those things that we're going to let players experience for yourself. Xenothreat and a sort of a pre-Xenothreat thing that's got a name, but I'm not going to share the name today. I want to see if people can suss it out. But Xenothreat's getting much, much bigger, much broader, and much more interesting, personally, from my perspective. That'll roll out. That'll start to roll out before 323, and then into 323, if all things go as planned. The looting stuff, the looting stuff.
Oh, the looting's fantastic.
The new looting stuff that we saw at CitizenCon is going in. There's a new shopping app. We haven't showed that because the guys on Team Kian's team actually are working on it right now. We'll be showing that in ISC hopefully in about 5-6 weeks. When we go back to Team Kian for even more stuff that they're working on, they got a whole lot of stuff in 323 on that team. And then some economy stuff. I've been doing this a long time, and we haven't talked a whole lot about economy stuff.
Pause right here. I'm super excited about this. The economy, here we go, folks.
And it's rolling MMOs and stuff like that. So for the economy stuff, we're actually going to take a quick break, and we're going to bring in 2 members of our economy team who have never been on video before. We've never actually put a showcase on the people who are down in the trenches doing the economy stuff. So we're gonna do that in a minute. So we're gonna throw it to a beautiful scene of Pyro 2, 4, I don't remember which one, while we shuffle some chairs around. And we'll be back to talk even more stuff coming in Alpha 323. So stay tuned. And we're back. Hi, everybody. We're talking about all the cool, awesome stuff. I was going to say a swear word, and I already used my one yesterday. Being targeted for Alpha 323. Joining us now are members of our UK economy team, Andre and Nick. Andre, Nick, how you doing?
Hello. Hello. Thank you for having us.
So this is your first time on any kind of video stuff. Economy is not a topic we often talk about on our video stuff. It's not a particularly visual topic. So, but there's some big changes coming in 323, and then we'll continue on to 4.0 and stuff. So we wanted to start this conversation that will continue in the weeks leading in. Before we get into that, let's introduce yourselves. Let people know who you are and what you do. So Andre, you're closest, so we'll start with you. Hey. Who are you? What do you do?
I am Andre. I'm the lead economy designer.
You're the lead economy designer. What does the lead economy designer do?
Not much. But
well, he's figured the show out.
But I disagree with the fact that economy is not cool. I brought all my spreadsheets, so I'm going to prove you wrong.
You just live your life in spreadsheets.
Of course.
Yes. Okay. Nick?
Yeah, hi, I'm Nick, and I am one of the economy designers.
You looked at your notes for that, didn't you? I saw you. All you had to do was say your name and what you did.
Just to be sure. Just got to be certain. Okay. I've got based in Manchester studio here, but I figured that was unnecessary. So.
And of course, the economy team is not just you. You're just the 2 who were drafted to appear with us today. Who else is on your team?
There's actually 3 of us. We have Connor in the US. Hello, Connor. He's probably most certainly watching us right now live.
Yeah.
Okay. You say one thing to Connor before we continue. What would it be?
What would it be?
Check your notes.
Oh yeah, we should check my notes. It would be well done on other systems.
Oh, ominous. I like it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about economy, because I mean,
What did he mean by that? What did he mean by other systems? What did he mean by other systems? I'm kind of curious. Pyro or something else? Let's keep going.
everybody knows what the textbook definition, well, I shouldn't say everybody. Most people know what the textbook definition of the word is. As it applies to video games, I think it's easy to just assume it's the prices of things and that's it. But we know that it's more than that. So what is economy as it applies to a large-scale open universe MMO like Star Citizen?
I completely agree with your statement. First of all, of course, it includes the prices, but at least for myself, it's a bit more than that. It includes telling a story, but instead of using nice pictures, instead of using words, we are telling a story with numbers. We want to make sure that everybody is immersed in the world. They are having fun. They progress. Everything that they are doing not only makes a difference for the world and for the other players, also makes a difference for themselves.
Would you agree with that, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely. I mean, especially with an MMO, it's all about an immersive dynamic. It's the feel that everything around you is connected and that your actions have purpose and you can progress and so can your friends.
It's interesting to me that you use the word immersive, because it is one of the, you know, I'm going on 10 years here. So one of the things that I've heard CR complain about periodically is the fact that you can buy a missile for like 500 AUEC. That's not the actual number, but it's some ridiculously low number. It's like, you could never just go into a store and buy a missile for $500 or whatever. It's like, we got to get this economy stuff done. Is that what we're talking about here with 3.23 and 4.0 on? Are we starting the process of now going through and retuning all of these?
For sure, we are in the process of retuning that. We are not only giving our players and to ourselves, because all of us are fans of the game, but the chance to earn more money, to become rich and be rewarded in a fair way for the activity they do, but also the chance to spend that UEC on something that they can be proud of.
Mm-hmm. And so, before we get into the specifics of what's going to happen in 3.23, when we talk about the things that are economy, obviously the prices of a thing are the economy, but the travel times, how long it takes you to take something from this to this, is a factor of the economy, because that now determines whether the payout is, you know, whether a 10,000 credit payout is actually worth the 10,000 or not. How long it takes you to get your ship back from insurance is a factor of economy. What else am I not thinking of?
Those are very good examples. And going back to immersion, it's almost like level design. We want to find in the places that we go and explore the things that we would expect to find there, and their prices to be according to, for example, to the distance from where they are produced. The players to have access to the resources that they need and they want.
And Fuller 0079 says, he says UEC, not AUEC. Don't read into it, man. I promise. Just. Like, we're sitting here, we're giving you all this actual information, and then people are like digging for like hidden information between the words. It's just going to make you unhappy. It doesn't mean nothing. Enjoy the show. All right, so in 3.23, the first, let's say the next kind of major push towards, you know, building this economy, towards hardening this economy that's been, if you don't mind my saying, kind of all over the place for years and years and years. Okay. It's going to happen. What are we talking about as far as what's going to happen in 3.23?
Well, cohesive is a word that we are using a lot. Bringing all these systems that our wonderful colleagues already built, bringing them together so they make sense when they work together. So you've already seen some glimpses in Pyro, in the design of Pyro, in the design of the prices of the new, the new prices of armors that Nick worked very hard on them. We're working on the weapons, on FPS weapons, pre-balance, vehicles, ships. Eventually, we're going to do a pass on everything, basically.
So armors, weapons, probably the one that most people will notice right off the bat is ships and vehicles. So there's going to be...
I've been expecting this for some time, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised it hasn't come up for many reasons. But yeah, I agree with their reasoning. A missile shouldn't be $500. Not at all, you know, a size 9 torpedo. Retaliator pilots, I'm on to you. Also, real ship parts should cost quite a bit, I think, depending on ship. If they do it in a scalable manner, and also depending on the manufacturer of who makes the ship, definitely it'll pay off in the long run to people who have a mix of ships instead of just one to rely on. However, your capital ships will probably end up being your biggest expenditure because, well, let's face it, they're huge. Anyways, let's keep going.
A substantial change to the prices of ships and vehicles in 323. We're not going to ask you for specific numbers here because 323 is still many weeks away, and it would be a pointless exercise right now. But talk to me about the process. How are you determining what these new prices are going to be?
There's not a good way or a bad way to do it. We explore different ways. Talking specifically about vehicles, for example, manufacturers, it's something that we look into. We could take each individual vehicle or ship and disassemble it into its stats. How fast does it accelerate? How fast? What is its maximum speed and mass and everything? But because that is subject to change, we don't want to tweak those prices every time a small change is made. So for that reason, we take those factors that we know they are already decided on. For example, I mentioned already manufacturers. Some manufacturers put more care into their work. They use better materials. They use better technology. They use alien technology that is harder to get. That informs the price. Obviously, if a ship is larger, it's going to cost more.
Gotcha. And if it's Drake, it's obviously going to be cheaper.
I would not confirm or deny that.
Yeah. So manufacturer is one tenet. What else is a factor?
The size of the ship and its focus. So the same way a tank is more expensive than a lorry, the same way we would expect a combat ship to have better technology, better armor, better stats on average than a truck.
Okay. So it sounds like, if I'm understanding you right correctly, in 323 there's going to be a massive change to the in-game cost. And I want to make sure that we're talking. This is a development thing. It's not a marketing thing before the friggin' Reddit threads start up. This is going through and working the in-game economy and realigning the ships based on manufacturer, role size. I did ask you if you could give us some examples. Now, these are not going to be final examples. Obviously, again, the changes won't happen for several weeks yet. But just to help us illustrate, to help us prepare for what kind of stuff you're talking about. Were you able to get some examples?
Yes.
Okay.
I watch your show, so I see that you have a Pisces there. No, yeah. So the rescue one, because we want to make it more affordable, and because myself, I see myself playing as a medic in the future. I made it a bit more affordable. So it's going to be in the range of $500,000 USC, alpha USC. And
so you're saying something like the Pisces might actually go down,
yes,
as far as the cost.
Yes. The Pisces Rescue is going to be a lot more affordable than it was. I can give you the example of my favorite ship. You can argue about that in the chat. It's the Arrow. I really like the Arrow. is going to be in the range of about 2 million per USC. It's a combat ship, it's high performance ship, so obviously somebody that can drive that ship worked very hard to get that ship, and they can be proud of owning that ship.
So those seem like kind of lower level, entry level ships.
Yes.
Can we talk about something kind of mid range, like a Connie? Or
a Connie, it's a very good example because a lot of our players like that ship. I think it's in the range of 10 million now. Maybe going back into combat, something even larger. I really like the Hammerhead. Yeah, the Hammerhead is going to be about 45 to 50 million USC. It's a ship that it's a multi-crew ship, so I can see players pulling their resources together to buy such a ship.
Gotcha. And this is, you're using the words "it's going to be" and stuff like this. This is what we're working towards. This is what we're currently working towards. Of course, with feedback and testing and stuff, the numbers may change and whatnot. Of course, 323 is not the end all be all for anything. It's like obviously these things go in. We get player feedback. We do the testing at full scale, and then
only the first,
and then adjust and continue.
It's only the first pass the economy team is doing.
But this is a conversation that's. That's been waiting to happen for years and years. Like we've always. I don't think it's been a secret to anybody who's played Star Citizen that like I said, the economy has always just been kind of this. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. We're here. We're getting to it now, for lack of a better term. So Alpha 323 is that next push, but it's not the last push. It'll continue to be balanced, continue to evolve. I'm going to ask you for like okay. So we did a Pisces and an arrow. We did a constellation. Let's go to the far end and just see if we can get some of that sticker shock out of the way. What are you thinking for something like an 890?
For example.
For example.
You like the nicer things in life.
Oh well, or I'm just trying to work the sticker shock here. So Origin, fancy manufacturer, 890, super big on the size. What are you thinking? I'm just gonna hold my alpaca here.
Let's make a list. Do you want gold on the walls? Do you like the marbles in the bathrooms?
What do you need? Give me the worst case scenario. What are we thinking? Worst case scenario?
No, we are talking about luxury. We are talking about Origin, a manufacturer that it's famous for putting so much care and so much quality in their ships, and I'm thinking in the range of 70 million USD.
Okay.
Somebody that has an jump, they can be proud of it.
It's all right.
Are we going to be able to sell virtual kidneys? Is that a thing?
Look at him. He's the FPS guy.
Not yet.
Is that coming in 323?
No.
Oh.
We can balance the price on that.
But I've known JJ a long time. He's not going to dismiss the idea out of hand. Or maybe harvesting some organs.
Maybe we've got a
sideline in 9
got a multi-tool.
That's what the multi-tool is for. All right, so obviously, these are the prices that we're currently thinking. This work is ongoing and will continue until Alpha 323 releases. Once it releases as part of Alpha 323, it will continue to be evaluated.
Yep.
It'll continue to solicit feedback, continue to look at analytics, all that good stuff, and make adjustments as necessary. Because that's what you do with a live service game. You make adjustments as necessary. Thank you so much for this. This was again, like I remember, coming to you, like, hey, we want to talk about economy. You were very eager. You since the first time I ever met you, you're like, I want to get on there and start chatting with people about economy. So I'm glad we got a chance.
I want that feedback as soon as possible. That's the reason.
That's what we like to hear, Andre. Guys, thank you so much for being on the show. Is there anything, JJ, anything more we want to say about 323? Let's go back through the list real quick before we're talking. So right now, targeted for Alpha 323, we're targeting new EVA, the new Pie-Piss Pit, whatever we gotta get better at naming things.
It's even better. There's 2 pies, Jared. We're only dealing with 1.
New default item actions, reloading, dynamic crosshair, scopes, distribution centers, master modes, precision targeting, turret and gimbal changes, visor and lens stuff, new looting screens, a new looting system rather, a new shopping app, the star map, character customizer, a whole bunch of things cargo, including the freight elevators and some more, the blockade runner mission stuff we talked about, big changes to Xenothreat, and these economy changes, and that's just the stuff I'm willing to share with you right now. There's even more. Mm-hmm. Feel good?
It's a lot to do.
It's a lot to do.
There is a lot to do.
But we're in the
yeah, we're all excited.
We're all excited. It's building on the work that you guys have been doing for Squadron 42 for the last 2 years. The teams are working hard to convert it over. We've already got interviews in the can for ISC, for distribution centers and for master modes and stuff like that. We're going to be talking to you about all that stuff like that. So lots of great stuff coming. I hope you're as excited. Let me change the way I want to say it. I've been doing, like I said, I've been doing this I'm going on 10 years now. You've seen me here, you've seen me in LA, you've seen me in a variety of situations talking to you about this, that, or the other thing. You've seen me cautious, you've seen me with trepidation, you've seen me hedge my bets left and right. The last time I went full-throated into something, I ended up with a beard that was like this, and it wasn't good. I hope you can take from my own personal enthusiasm. I see the work that these guys are doing each and every day. I've been seeing the work they've been doing for the last 2 years and just waiting for the time where this gets brought back over to the PU. We're here. This is going to be one heck of a year when the Squadron team comes back with the Star Citizen team, and it's nothing but blue skies. I'm not going to say that. No, I'm not going to say it's nothing but blue skies. I'm getting caught up in my own hype.
Let's make some magic happen.
It's going to be a magical year. Let's just say that. I'm not going to say nothing but blue skies. Jeez, I was going to get hit by a meteor when I walk out the door. About that. Lastly, before this week's show, I did want to take a few minutes to talk, if I can, as myself, not as a CIG representative, but just as Jared Huckabee, the dude that works in the game industry. 2023 was a huge year for the release of video games. And if you followed any ounce of gaming news, you've probably know that it was one of the hardest years for those who create the video games. That struggle to stay employed has extended into the first month of 2024, as I think the last count was nearly 5,000 people have been laid off in the video game industry in the first 30 days alone. I spend my time dedicated to highlighting the people who make video games possible. And as one of those people who are lucky enough to still get to do what I love, I wanted to take a moment at the end of the show, just as me, to show my appreciation and my gratitude to all those people who are dedicated to creating the universes for our entertainment, both here at CIG and at every game studio that's ever made a game I've played. To those who've made the games that I still haven't played, the backlog is real. And just my overall gratitude for everybody who contributes to this industry. You're appreciated, and we're all thinking about you always. So hope you guys land on your feet. We're going to keep on trucking. We're going to keep on making the biggest and baddest space MMO we can. And yeah, thanks for humoring me for the last 3 minutes. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk. It's just me, but I thought I'd take the chance. I needed to say something. So thanks a lot. Hope you enjoyed Star Citizen Live. Hope you're as hyped about Alpha 323 as I am. Join us next week on Inside Star Citizen when we shake things up and we explore the work of a team you probably never expect us to. It's not a 323 thing. It's one of those little cool detours that we take sometimes. Their work is really cool, and I hope you'll appreciate it as much as I do. And then we'll be back right here for another Star Citizen Live next week. And I have no idea who's on that show yet. I gotta wander through the hallways like the Grim Video Reaper. Like, you're next on my show. So take care. Thanks a lot. That's Andre. That's Nick. That's JJ. I'm Jared. See you later. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, Jared.
How's that? Well, folks, that was a very interesting group of things. I really enjoyed that a lot. And can I just say that I'm really hoping we get at least half of that, even a third of that in the next couple of quarters or so, because that'll be fun. You know, I mean, yeah. I'm really hopeful that we at least get some of the stuff they talked about today. Hey, Kiss Theme, are you actually there or not? I didn't know if you were following along or anything. I was going to say hello, but you were probably paying attention to the show, so I didn't want to bother you. Sorry. I saw you in the chat, but I didn't see anyone typing, so it's been really quiet today. If you can, what did you think about the ISC and the SCL? I think there was a lot of stuff this week that I hope we see, at least, you know, soon, hopefully, within the quarter or two. The star map for sure. But, yeah. Anyway, folks, before I forget, I've been having issues with Twitch, streaming in general, the last couple of days. I didn't know what was going on, but I think I fixed it finally. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to raid a friend if I can. Let's see who I'm trying to raid. He may not be big enough. Commander Hat, type it. Commander. There he is. Start raid. Please help out this guy if you can. He's a good friend, and I would appreciate you guys if you would help him out. Thank you very much, and have a great day, everyone. 07.